Leadership
Oh.
podcast.
Wow. Well, a total of 3 listeners.
All right, let's get going. Should we do a quick round of introductions? I'm Wendy from Hope House. And Greg, you can go next.
I'm Greg from Higgins. I'm the grant monitor from for Milwaukee Coalition on Housing and Homelessness with the CUC. Raphael.
Good morning, everyone. Raphael Acevedo with the city of Milwaukee. I mean, doesn't Greg have that podcast voice, though? I mean, it's just natural for him, for sure. Anyways, Tim.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Tim Bach, Pathfinders. Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly with the Guest Talk in Milwaukee.
You got to pick the next person.
Sorry, my brain is not working. I still have COVID. Who hasn't gone? Steve.
Steve, Guest House. Justina.
Hi, I'm Justina Hepburn Gray, and I'm with ICA HMIS Administrator. Oh gosh, it's so hard to pick. Candace, have you gone yet?
Hi, Candace from Outreach. Emily Kinney.
Morning, everyone. Emily Kenny from Milwaukee County, and I will pass it off to Melissa.
Good morning, Melissa McGahee. I'm Emily's colleague at Milwaukee County, formerly with the city, so nice to see some familiar faces. And I'll pass it off to Andy Elliott.
Good morning, Andy Elliott, Community Advocates. And Steve Schultz.
Steve Schultz, Community Advocates. I'm going to pass it off to Amy.
Amy Rowe, Impact. Pass it to Claire.
Morning, Claire Shanahan, City of Milwaukee. I know everyone. Hi, everyone. I will pass it off to Kristen.
I am Kristen from Cathedral Center, filling in for Donna today. She's on vacation. And I'll pass it off to Wendy. Did you go yet? You went.
How about Lisa Vega?
Sure.
Thanks, Wendy. Hi, I'm Lisa Vega from Mercy Housing Johnson Center on behalf of Clarissa Cameron, who's on her way to Africa.
Oh.
She's chaperoning her son's trip. It's so cool. Okay, I think that was everyone. Oh, Eric, you didn't go.
Oh, Eric Onside, Milwaukee County.
Nancy Estevez, ICA.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Mario
Everybody
Higgins,
knows who I am.
Mario Higgins, City of Milwaukee.
Sorry, Mario.
That's all
And
right.
I also didn't go, Wendy, but thank you.
Okay, I'm glad at this, y'all.
Now we know who Wendy's really got beef with. I'm playing the Milwaukee Coalition on Housing and Homelessness. Good morning.
Liz Marquardt, Sojourner.
Justin Kasdorf, CBI.
Okay, Justin, you weren't on when I looked the first time.
You're right. I just hopped on in real on the sly.
All right, is everyone gone now? Thank you all. I'm sorry. So the first thing on our agenda was to talk about the special COC builds NOFO. And I don't know, Raphael, did you want to start that out or?
Yeah. Thanks, Wendy. I think we've there's this new opportunity to apply for some new funds through HUD. It's called COC Builds. It's really focused around creating more affordable units within communities. It's highly competitive. There's I think folks have had an opportunity to at least look at it. I think we wanted to bring this, obviously, this opportunity to this body, but also we had a really good meeting last week with Milwaukee County, and they have some thoughts and interests in applying for this grant. And I asked them to come to this meeting to share what they're thinking and if we have any questions about it. But at the same time, I just really wanted to make sure everyone's aware of this opportunity, but also there's been a lot of work already been done specifically to a specific project that Milwaukee County is looking for, and just wanted them to come and tell all of us about it. So asked Melissa and Emily to come and join us. So thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to just jump in? Okay.
Jump in.
I put together a few slides just because I don't know, there's a lot of words. So I thought it might be helpful to just have a visual. I don't know, Raphael had said, hopefully people have had a chance to look at this NOFO opportunity. And another person who actually works under Melissa, but is on my team, is Maria Melendez. And she did a great job digesting, like really reading through and digesting the most salient points about this NOFO. So I thought it might be helpful just to put that, because this is different from perhaps other NOFOs that we've had. So it's due in November. So we have a little bit of time, but the amount of preparation that's required, regardless of what the project is, there's a reason that they pushed it out, I think, until November, because there's a lot of pre-work that is required to be competitive, regardless of what the project is. Maria, in reading it, there's thought that we could get between 1 and 7.5 million. So it's, there's a total amount. There will be 25 awardees, and based on our size, she thought that we could go for about that much. It is a 2 to 5 year time limited project. This is not something where there will be continuing dollars or that we can fold into like the regular NOFO. It is a time limited project, really focused on new construction, acquisition, or rehab. So there can be some supportive services, but again, they won't be continued after that 2 to 5 year period. So really the focus is on building, COC builds in terms of building. It is intended to build permanent supportive housing, so that requirement of a disability is there for like who's served in this building, but chronic homelessness is not required. Conversion of hotels and motels is encouraged. Someone had said like HUD is really on this like hotel thing right now, and there's like they've got they're imagining what we can do with that space. The typical 25% match is required, and these two I think are important when thinking about the potential project. It sounds like they're really looking for how can we use this construction that will maximize an opportunity to decrease the gap between what our PIT numbers say and what our HIC numbers have. And they're also encouraging leveraging other funds and perhaps using like having a mixed use building. So that it's not just these funds for a project. And then as usual, they are encouraging partnerships and really have an emphasis on healthcare partnerships within developments. So when thinking about this, I thought about kind of what I know about the COC needs. Oh, Tim, should I pause for questions now?
Yeah, Emily, just a quick question. Can you clarify who are the eligible applicants?
Thank you, Tim. So the applicant has to be the lead, COC leads. So it is up to our lead to decide kind of what the projects are. And I had asked Raphael, maybe I can pause for you to talk about, I had asked kind of if there was a process that you all had talked about for potential projects. Because it does sound like that's, as the lead, you would be putting in the application and you'd have to figure out what the project is for that application, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I know we do have some time, but we talked about this at the last meeting, but also, if there's a strong enough project, again, we all know this is going to be extremely competitive. 25 selected projects nationwide. I think obviously the county's done a lot of work already on this specific idea, but also wanted to bring it up to this body to see what if there are other opportunities or other ideas that have come up based on this RFP that we want to hear about them. I haven't heard anything yet as far as any group interested in applying for these funds. But again, we're here to learn about what the county is proposing. And then we'll obviously work closely with them if this is something we want to continue and pursue. But yeah, this is a unique opportunity. One time, not just, there's no dollars to sustain it, I think, past those years, but there's, I'm sure, opportunities for us to leverage some of our other resources within our system to work with this. So that's kind of what we're looking at as far as moving forward with something like this.
Thank you. And so I kind of saw two worlds when this came out. I saw two worlds colliding, and then said, hey, maybe this is an opportunity for us. So I'll talk about how the two worlds kind of came together and what we see as a potential viable project for this that might get funded. And then, yeah, we can discuss further, or you all can discuss further. So in terms of like the populations kind of coming together, I had asked Nancy for some data. Thank you, Nancy, for getting to me relatively quickly. That's how it always is for Nancy. We're like, can you get it to me tomorrow, please? So thank you. So anyway, so this is a unique opportunity for non-chronic permanent supportive housing. And when we looked at our PIT numbers this last year, what stood out to me, even before I transitioned to this job, is the increase in people that are over 60, especially people that we saw that were unsheltered and over 60. And so just in general, the population in our PIT counts has doubled of people that are over 60, and the self-report of disability has increased as well during that, for people that are over 60 within our COC. The other thing that Nancy was able to pull for me is that our length of time to housing is increasing for people over 60 as well. So, and I know that that's a trend just in general, but that is a trend that we're seeing with this population. What I found most interesting is that of those who are housed, the large majority are veterans. So having a veteran set aside, we are able to capture some of that older population, but people that are not veterans and over 60, we're seeing an increase in literal homelessness for them. So combining that with my role at county is to look really across DHHS, so across the entire lifespan. One of the things that we're seeing with housed older adults is that the number of people over 60 is increasing, and the poverty rates are increasing. It's likely that it's because of that, increasing poverty rates, that we're also seeing more people come into homelessness. And at the same time, separately, this is where the worlds kind of collided. We have had a need for improving a senior center space with a focus on McGovern Senior Center. There has been a select senior center committee that has worked for years. And when Raphael says like work that's been done, this work came pre-me. And so really it's just kind of like, maybe there's a way to blend things here and do good for our community. They had already imagined a space that is both community-based, community-facing, and also has housing that would potentially be at McGovern Park and replace the McGovern Senior Center. The thought for that building is that it would have here, so I'll switch to the opportunity here. So could we potentially use this as an opportunity to meet the increasing need of older adults who are experiencing homelessness and the need of just kind of more community space for people, older adults within McGovern? We could potentially use this grant to leverage financing for a LIHTC building for PSH, but then also create that mixed use space. So we it wouldn't have to all be like this. These apartments are only for at this site people over 60. And then having that community space, they're calling the select committee is not wanting to call them senior centers anymore, but calling them community hubs, and really having a space for people to come. They envision a clinic where there's already a relationship in other senior centers with Aurora around coming and providing healthcare services to people within the senior centers. So there's, again, as I'm like hearing what their plans are and thinking about what this NOFO's asking for, some of those partnerships already exist that we could potentially leverage. The other partnership is that Serving Older Adults SOA provides services on site at the senior centers currently, and there's some willingness to explore having that that contract extend to supportive services on site, in addition to case management, but having on-site support services for the units potentially in this build as well. That's kind of what we were thinking about, kind of as we were reading this opportunity, knowing that this work had been done, seeing the trends, and kind of thinking that this might be an opportunity to bring those two together. Yes, Tim.
Emily, I apologize if I missed this. Did you note the number of units that are anticipated?
No, because they have done some like mock-ups and things like that, and had space for like 80 units. I will say that I think that would not be tolerated by the neighborhood. So so we've had some discussions, and they've done some community listening sessions, but the thinking is maybe more like 40 units instead of 80. But it's not decided. It's not determined.
And do you guys have a sense in your own analysis of what HUD may be preferring in terms of impact relative to, you mentioned earlier, the homeless street count versus the HIC, and trying to bridge that divide or that gap? How does this project potentially fit into that priority?
It's a good question. So I had asked Nancy, because I couldn't recall, like on our HIC, we have 0 senior dedicated units. And so we can show the rise, we can't show the gap because there isn't anything, there is. So maybe that in and of itself is the gap. I do think it would be worth doing we wanted to kind of present here first. We just talked last week with Raphael before really digging in, but I think, Tim, you make a really good point. It would be good to dig into what that gap looks like across all populations, because that's an important piece of the NOFO. Another thing I don't know is it common for COCs to have set aside senior vouchers, or, I don't know that trend across the nation. It's just, we haven't had it, and we're seeing the population rise, and maybe we do, maybe it's something to consider.
I do think, Emily, that is not unique to Milwaukee. I mean, that is a trend that's been identified and has accelerated during COVID, that communities across the country have seen a pretty significant increase in the number of people experiencing homelessness on the street who are 60 plus years old. So I think this does speak to something we as communities are still trying to get our arms around, but clearly is an unmet need, given we haven't designated any particular resources for that segment of our community based on age and the vulnerabilities that come with that, like you've already noted. So I just think in terms of context, we're not unique to that, but this is an opportunity, it sounds like, to begin to address that unmet need.
Yeah, this is Andy, and I would just like to echo that, and I appreciate that Milwaukee County is like looking at this for older adults, and you're also in kind of the unique position to kind of bring in Department on Aging and the other elements of serving this population. So very excited about this opportunity.
And if I could just add, I love the idea of excuse me, the community hub with the partnerships that have already been identified. I mean, this is just a building on something that already exists across multiple departments within Milwaukee County, and it just sounds like it's really got a pretty solid foundation in terms of, moving that forward.
What I would like to know next is what next steps are. I mean, we're willing to, I am so fortunate, those of you that know Melissa and Maria and their talent, I am so fortunate that they are on my team. So like we're willing and ready to put in the work, but the COC lead has to be the one. And so I think that's why, Raphael, you wanted to bring it here. The COC has to be the one to decide and ultimately submit the application. So, so I guess, and maybe I would like to know next steps. If that's an offline conversation or here.
So if it's an RFP process, Raphael, wouldn't you have to make this public to allow other entities or new partners to apply? I'm just thinking of like our regular NOFO, you have to announce that as well. And where would you announce it?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't say anything that I read in the instructions as like the process, but we obviously want to do our due diligence in that. If we were to send out even a letter of intent from like our office out to the community and give maybe like a 2-week or so deadline and then kind of go from there. I think we can definitely do that. Again, I have not been approached or talked to about any specific projects, but I think we can at least do that so that we can, cover our bases and make sure that we also give any other groups an opportunity that may have an interest. But yes, for sure.
I think you could even just put it on our website, and then that way you're making it public for anyone that accesses our website. Because you have to do that for the NOFO now.
Yeah, we can put something on our city website because we also have the RFPs there. It's a little bit more broader, but we can do it either way.
For the regular NOFO, we usually put it on the website. We post it on social media.
Yep, we can do that listserv. But yeah, social media as well. So yeah, we'll talk early next week on a strategy, and we can share with you guys as to, because we're in August. No, I don't know, it's late November, but I would like to make a quick decision on this.
Yeah,
I would echo that. I think in terms of Milwaukee County's planning, and if there are developers or other entities that are interested, it would be good to know that now so that we can develop a process for identification and selection. So whoever moves forward has maximum time. And I know November probably sounds a little bit of ways away, but it really isn't relative to putting a project of this scale together. Just switching topics for a moment, Claire posted something in the meeting chat that I think is really important. And Emily, you responded. I'm wondering if you could say a little bit more about the neighborhood or feedback surrounding that site, because we know that's often what kills a project the fastest, is when there is local opposition on the ground near the areas where these projects are being envisioned. And I'd like to know that that's been assured before this moves forward. And, we get too far ahead of ourselves, so to speak. So Emily, could you say more about what the feedback has been thus far?
Yeah, I can say what I know. Aging has been leading those discussions. So, so what I know is that people aren't opposed to more housing, but they're opposed to like high. If it goes tall, that's not. And then also traffic, those typical community concerns. So that's why 80 felt like a lot. The other thing is that in terms of like senior center space, people and just community space, people like that park and they have fond memories of that park. I guess the county had even tried to like do some senior center activities. It's right by one of the housing authority. Oh my goodness, now I'm blanking on the name. one of the housing authority sites, and people didn't go, even though it was like across the street. And they said, no, here is where we want to be. So there's like a strong affiliation for using the park, having space in that park for community. So that's what they've heard so far. And also McGovern as a site, the current, it's not really meant to be a senior center. It's like a park building. So that's another reason that the community is saying, help us, have some space that we can utilize that's big enough and designed for a community. So, but certainly I think that there's more to be done. If this moves forward, well, even if this funding doesn't move forward, one of my tasks is to get together, and the county supervisors and city aldermen in that area are interested in co-hosting a listening session. So we're working on putting that together probably in September to get more information. So that's ongoing. If I can also say about the timeline, there are a decent amount of questions in there about developer experience of the developer, that kind of thing. And so I really do, I second with like full force what Tim said in terms of making things go quickly, because there is a lot of work to do in terms, finding the right partner and that kind of thing from our standpoint, if we were to move forward. So I would really encourage a letter of intent to come out like soon so that we can,
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Just to remind folks, this is on Sherman and Silver Spring, the location.
So it sounds like we'll be looking out for a letter of intent opportunity on the city website. We can go from there.
Real quick, Mario here. It might be, I'm wondering if it might be even better to just do maybe an RFQ, just a request for qualifications, and then that way we can decide. You can have the developers submit their interest, but also it's you can get sort of outlining our qualifications in case we do encounter developers that are interested that we haven't actually worked with, and then that way we can get a background on who they are. And then you can almost go in with your application with a more committed partner. I don't know if that's, instead of just the letter of intent.
Does the county have developers in mind, or developer partners in mind?
So I know that Jim, Matthew, and Eric are looped in, and they had some they have people that they've worked with. No, we haven't had any discussions with developers yet. We didn't want to jump the gun too much.
Makes sense.
I mean, just a thought. I mean, it probably could be something we could put together pretty quickly as far as the RFQ. And it's just them responding to what we're looking for and sending us their qualifications and their interest.
Raise my hand. I have Matthew here with me.
Wow. What do we owe this pleasure? Hold on, let me ring my bell. I have a special bell here.
I got mine too. Hold on.
Yeah.
Are you granting me permission to speak, Ralph?
Go ahead.
No, so Eric had just mentioned you guys were talking about the potential senior center building. So there's a lot on the county side that needs to be talked about before we get too far on this. Since it's a county facility, it would have to be an RFP through Milwaukee County in partnership with our economic development division. So that would be the first step before anything else. So the county would have to choose a developer, identify potential gap financing, and build that RFP on the county side, most likely ran by that division as the first step.
Mm-hmm.
So
makes sense.
yeah, so just weighing in on that.
Okay.
And Jim, are you saying you would need to do that before the proposal is put forward to HUD?
Well, so again, I think we really need to really look at the scoring from HUD to make sure that this will score effectively. But I think it depends on who the funding goes to. And I think you're going to have to, depending who the funding goes to, you have to look at site control and whether or not that's housing or whether or not it's a specific developer and those different types of things. So this will be a little bit of a process. We would have to, on the county side, identify a developer probably by November 1st. So you'd have to run a full RFP, you'd have to choose the developer, you'd have to have those agreements signed probably by November 1st to hit the first part of the tax credit cycle in December.
And
So
when
if there was an,
when is this due? The RFP?
November 21st.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, Wendy, cut you off.
no, I was just going to ask, so if there was an RFQ, the county would have to do their RFP process prior to answering that RFQ. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Well, I think
sorry, but if the county's going to do an RFP, then there wouldn't be the need to do an RFQ, I don't think.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, we'll just do a letter of intent type thing for the application itself. Yeah.
So I just wanted to update folks on that. That'll probably be the first part of the county process. So just wanted to let folks know.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. So it sounds like you would put forward an RFI for interest in the application itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose potentially a developer could throw their hat in the ring all by themselves, but then they'd have to have a plan for all the other pieces of it.
Correct. Yeah, I think, yeah. Probably difficult, but yeah.
So
Okay.
what would happen? What would happen if we didn't get the grant then? And then they put out an RFP, then the county's stuck with doing it without the grant? Is that? No.
No, I would imagine the RFP would be contingent upon selection.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't award work when you don't have the funds awarded to you to cover that work. So I'm sure county knows how to navigate that with potential developers. To the earlier point, though, I think some developers don't necessarily think forward to sustainability or the service components that are required for permanent supportive housing. And so they may be interested without really thinking forward to, past the point of construction and opening, sort of what you do with that. So that might be something that, again, sort of gauging the interest would be useful, I think, in terms of our own guidance and planning moving this forward. Not to get, ahead too far, but Emily, can you speak to sort of sustainability? Has that been sort of discussed in terms of what comes after this relative to how do you keep it going?
There has been some discussion. I might lean on Eric for this too, because it's the county has done this in other projects. So part of it could be having some market rate units and using like vouchers and things like that for that. For the senior specific ones, there is some support that comes from having LIHTC and reducing rent there, but we would need to figure out utilizing vouchers, perhaps project-based vouchers for that sustainability. The services, though, I think in terms of serving older adults being, potentially on site as the senior center, that piece that we struggle with paying for, I think that's an interesting new partnership with having aging. Aging has that contract and would pay for those services.
What was the grant amount again? Up to what? How many million?
I forget the total amount. Melissa may know. Maria thought that we could reasonably apply for up to 7.5 million, and get a chance to get it.
Well, that's a number. That's certainly a number, isn't it?
It is a number. This is also speaking out of my wheelhouse, but the folks that do know kind of the LIHTC world thought that that would be, there's usually this gap, and that 7.5 million could comfortably help fill that with the LIHTC tax credits to make the project go. So in terms of numbers, it seems to be kind of the right amount.
I know that we're working, oh, sorry,
Go ahead.
Tim.
No,
I
go
know
ahead.
that we're working with 2 NOFOs here, but does it make sense, Raphael, to add this to at least a biweekly or kind of like an update COC builds to our regular NOFO meeting? We're meeting weekly now, but I think so that we're not losing the momentum, so that we're not kind of like, so we're able to focus on both. I think it makes sense to add it to the agenda just as an update or standing agenda item, something so that we're still talking about this and we're, if actions need to happen or action steps need to happen, that we're doing it on a timely basis. So we don't want to lose out on this opportunity because it's exciting.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. So we'll work on getting something out next week. And we'll keep the county folks, I'll keep you guys updated on progress. Yeah, we'll try to make this work.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you both for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Have a good day.
Bye, thanks.
All right. Next up, we have the regular NOFO, which has come out, I believe, since this group last met. And everyone is so excited. And it is due October 30th. And so I guess if Nancy or Tim or Greg or whomever would like to talk about timelines and process and
Yeah, I can intro it and then let Nancy and Raphael maybe take it away. But so basically, yeah. So NOFO's out, the instructions are out, and we have been working through it. We're gonna be week by week now, and we've got a lot already done, surprisingly for the narrative, which is great. And some big changes. So obviously the biggest change is it's going to a 2-year cycle. The asks or everything is still going in a 1-year grant cycle as far as funding and what people are budgeting and planning for. But the competition will be a 2-year cycle. This is great news. This is going to give us a lot more time to reassess and develop some priorities more specific to our COC. And the way it works, so basically what HUD has been saying and the way they put it out there in the NOFO itself is that essentially come 2025 around this time, there will be, as long as there are no changes, no reallocations, no either voluntary or otherwise, no grant mergers or anything like the project mergers, it will just kind of go by like a sort of glorified grants inventory worksheet, a GIW. And if there are changes, we'll deal with that as it comes. There are ways to work with that. But there won't be a full competition come 2025. It will just, and then obviously they say if there are more funds available, they will distribute those as they see fit. And then the other thing is another sort of big change is the tier system. So, usually it's tier 1 and tier 2, which it still is, but the percentages have changed. So tier 1 is now 90% instead of 93 of the ARD, and then which means the tier 2 is now 10%. So we'll see what that looks like come ranking, and when we actually have our ARD, we'll see what that looks like. So they changed that. They didn't really give a reason why, so they just said that's what they're doing. Other thing is there's a lot of YHDP information. Basically, just kind of much like last year, there was a lot of DV information because there was a whole new DV section. We had applied for DV bonus and all that stuff. They're defining a lot of different things around YHDP, such as what reallocation means and stuff like that. It's very similar to the DV as far as if there are things with, let's say, a YHDP program wants to merge with another one, or someone wants to take over for one, because et cetera, like we had with the ASHA situation recently. Then that just says basically whoever takes that has to 100% commit to that population. So, but other than that, not a whole lot of changes. Just those two big ones, I guess. And also, YHDP is not competitive this year either. It won't be considered in the competition because it's got I think Emily, it's like 2 years, I believe. So it's 2026. So, so that's that. I think, and then there were a couple other things. I think Raphael, you would wanted to mention the COLA and the leverage.
Yeah, I think one thing they mentioned, and keep in mind there's usually when the NOFO is released, there's webinars attached to it. There's one coming up soon that we'll send you the invite to. Please participate and listen into that webinar. One's through HUD, and there's another one by, I think, by the National Alliance. They always put together. But another focus I think they've talked about in this specific NOFO is the building an effective workforce. So that's what they're calling it, and really emphasizing employment in this specific application. I know we've talked about it for many years, but that's one area that we'll look at. And then the other thing was the cost of living adjustment, which is huge, I think, for our COC, which is they're looking at, they've authorized to make reasonable cost of living adjustments for the renewal application, which is they haven't done, I don't think, in I don't know how many years they've last done this. So that's, I think, exciting piece of the application itself. Those are kind of like I guess, as Greg mentioned, some of the big changes for this year. The timeline piece, we will be releasing out a timeline. We're looking at possibly doing this by tomorrow, as far as at least getting the timeline for the applicants who are applying, so they understand when applications, eSNAP stuff are due. I know there's the letter of intent. A letter of intent to renew, that's due, I think, next week, Friday. Is that right, Greg?
Friday. Yep, the 16th.
Yep. Then the second piece of that is we'll release a letter of intent for the COC bonus and DV bonus projects, which this year it's going to, we'll have more money available. We don't know the exact amount, but the percentages have increased, and that will, I think we ballparked it. Greg, what was that number? 2?
I think it was a 1.8 for the for regular bonus, and 2.3, 2.5, something like that for DV. That is just ballpark for based on what we've gotten with what the ARD has been before. So
yeah, they haven't released the is it the FPRN?
The FPRN, the PPRN. Mm-hmm.
Amounts that usually comes in a separate document that I'm sure we'll get those soon. That'll give us the exact amounts for each category, and then we'll depending. I'm hoping that comes out soon. If not, we're going to have to just release a letter of intent to apply for that with just some estimates, just so we have an idea who is interested in applying for bonuses. Again, this year we've had groups apply. Last year we didn't get any of the bonuses, but I think another opportunity for us to apply for more dollars this year. So kind of keep that in mind. I don't know if am I missing anything. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think really I attached the instructions if you haven't read them. I think that's a really important. They cover different aspects like addressing LGBTQ plus individuals. How are we prioritizing equity, emphasizing inclusivity, and addressing, how to effectively support vulnerable populations. I think throughout the narrative, it's clear that they're really promoting racial equity and how we're addressing that, right? So within our narrative, I think it emphasized too in the beginning of the instructions, make sure that you are writing your narrative to what you are currently doing, not what you've done in the past. And I think that we've done a really good job during our NOFO meetings to make sure that we're not doing any copy pasting from last year to this year, right? We learned the hard way. So a lot of that narrative has already been written, but making sure that we're tailoring it to what we're currently doing and not what we've done in the past is really important.
Yeah, and just so you know, for everyone who's not in those NOFO work group meetings, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to weekly meetings now. We were doing biweekly for planning purposes. Now that the NOFO's out, it's sort of all hands on deck, and we are going through section by section of every single little 1B5 dash whatever, and editing it, making and updating it. And then I have a system set up with Joanna, our grant writer, who basically every update that we put in, she sees that update, and then she starts to wordsmith it and do the grant writing piece, and then lets me know when they're done. So I think we have a good system set up this year. I think we're ahead a little bit more ahead than last year at this point, so that's good, and we have a little bit more time too. So I think, I feel good about it, and that'll give us more time to focus on the other thing, the other big no possibility. So yeah, anybody have any questions or anything? Or
I'm looking at Claire's comment about HUD reserving the right if more than 20% of assistance goes to any municipality in.
Yeah. Sorry, I have a bad habit of just dropping things in the chat. But yeah, it's yeah, that's just something I was thinking to shoot for the COC builds, NOFO. Just because I think we were unclear about what the max application amount would be. So just looking at that cap for 20% of the total award amount available.
All right. Does anyone else have any NOFO questions, comments, concerns?
Just for you, from all us non-NOFO people, we just appreciate all you NOFO people, all the work you're doing. Seems like a lot.
yeah, it haunts my dreams and is part of my everyday life now.
Sounds like the perfect subject for a podcast. Just saying.
Oh my gosh.
You can read the NOFO chapter by chapter.
No, worst podcast ever.
I'll be sure to tune into that when I have insomnia.
Yeah, it'll get the sleep podcast. Yeah, well, sultry tones will lull you to sleep.
All right, Homeless Connect update. And I can't help, I've not been involved at all.
Yeah, so I missed the last meeting. I think Emily went to that last meeting. There's a lot of planning going on with the event, which is October 17th, Thursday, October 17th at Marquette University from 9 to 4, I think. Yeah, there's a meeting tomorrow at 11 or 1, is it 1:30? It's virtual. So if anyone, actually 12:30 to 1:30.
12:30.
Yeah, thanks. Anyone interested in participating, helping out, planning, obviously they're recruiting volunteers, tables, resource tables. So if any of y'all you guys know the drill, you guys done this plenty of times, reach out to Christina. She's kind of leading the planning efforts, and looking forward to that event. And there may be some changes in the agenda or way to do the kickoff. I know in the past years we've had the mayor and county executive come and kick off the event inside the auditorium. We're thinking about changing that setup, but more to come on that. We have already reached out to the mayor. We're doing the homelessness awareness week after Project Homeless Connect. So there'll be a kickoff that Monday, whatever date that is, to kick off homelessness awareness week. There'll be a press conference with city and county officials to kick that off. Again, more to come on that. And that's all. I think that's it. If I'm missing anything, Emily, Amy.
I added the link. Whoa. I added the link to sign up if you want to be a resource or service provider. You don't have to contact Christina. You could just fill out the form.
Yeah, and then I just wanted to note that one of the things Raphael and I have been having a conversation about is how it is that we keep the volunteers who volunteer for this event engaged in the COC kind of year round, and offer them the opportunity to work more closely with us. Because we had this big recruitment of volunteers, and then and presumably they all have a lot of resources and knowledge, and we just sort of like let them go in the wind every year, which is a little strange.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that idea. I think it's great. It would be great. Let's say all of the organizations can maybe tap into some of these volunteers for, projects that you're working on currently within your organizations. But yeah, it's because obviously we've had conversations with these volunteers. They come from the corporate sector or other nonprofits, and they look forward to this event. But yeah, what are we doing with them, or how can we tap into them for the other 364 days?
All right. So this year we did a July pit again because everyone could see the number of people outdoors was going up. And I believe it was just to count unsheltered folks. And I know a lot of people worked very hard on it. And I'm wondering, Nancy, if you could kind of give us a quick update on how it came out, or Eric, or whoever it makes the most sense.
Yeah, so it's a quarterly unsheltered count. It's not a required count, but we are focusing on the unsheltered numbers every quarter, with January being our formalized point in time count. And we kind of wanted to compare our numbers. I don't have those numbers as of yet. They're not done entering that data. So once I get that done, hopefully by the next leadership meeting, I'll be able to present on the numbers. But yeah, that's all I had.
I was going to ask if Eric can just talk about just anecdotally what he's seen outside. He has a minute.
Is that for me?
Yeah, I mean, I know you or anyone else who does outreach on this call.
Sorry, I'm trying to follow along the outreach meeting too at the moment.
No worries.
Yeah, no, just really quick. I think everybody knows we've seen a pretty significant rise on the street over the last 3-4 months. We did a summer pit count recently, and at the moment it's anywhere between 235 and 250 that we're seeing across the community, which is higher for sure than the last 2 years. I wouldn't say like massively higher. I mean, I think we've seen like 180, 190. or so. But yeah, that's what we're seeing. You know, I think besides the encampments at Guest House Gardens and the city lot next to repairs, we've seen an increase over by St. Luke's, Clybourne between 2nd and 5th, especially down like around the Plankington area. We've seen an increase. And then we are seeing sort of some random pop-ups between Beecher and Lincoln, just east of I-43. There's around 12 tents or so. That's a newer spot. It's a little hidden. You can't see it when you're driving. We're starting to see different spots on the near north side. Fondy Market now has a significant group of folks that we're seeing, including some tents. So yeah, definitely a bit concerned. I think not only are there more folks on the street, I think we've seen in different encampments more increased vulnerabilities across the mental health and addiction side as well. With the near west side encampments, as some people know, we're looking at trying to do a really sort of thorough encampment response, including sanitation. We have porta potties at each site now. We're involving some Milwaukee County Behavioral Health and Disability Services to come to each site to start providing services. So I think we're trying to be a little more comprehensive in our approach than in past years. Obviously, still focused on housing and shelter as well, and that's the main part, but bringing some of those other things to the encampments. So yeah, I think too, going into warming, you know, city folks have talked to me about this. I think, yeah, we do have some concerns as we go into November and December, if there's still a lot of folks on the street, how the warming space and the shelter space will be able to absorb those folks as it gets colder. So definitely a topic of conversation over the next few months.
Have we ever utilized that shower thing we got, or did that not ever happen? Didn't we buy that piece of equipment that was some showers or something, or did I dream that?
No, Carl. That's the Street Angels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Street Angels bought one. We have one too. We have not. It's not operational yet. But I did get a chance to go visit the Street Angels shower when they were actually, Emily and I went over at Fondy Food Market space a couple of weeks ago. And that's, as Eric mentioned, there's a small encampment behind there. But yeah, they've been, I think, going out twice a week, once at Fondy and the other, I think, in front of Steve's place. I think they're still going, right? Yeah. But yeah, if you're interested in just to see what they're doing and how it's being operational, I think they have a schedule. They probably have a schedule on their Facebook page or something.
All right. Raphael, the next one was you, city provider discussions.
Yeah. So yeah, as we're planning a lot of things, right? There's things we're looking at. We had a really good meeting with ICA around the HIC and looking really deep at each project and what capacities are looking like, and doing a deeper dive of that and coming to the understanding, like, let's make sure that we have a strong HIC report and make sure that we have the organizations that are in the HIC, that they should be in the HIC. But at the same time, it opens up your eyes as to like what's really going on in our system, and keeping an eye on that. We're looking at some of the capacities, even with our PHS programs and also in our shelters. What does that look like? Knowing that SPMs are extremely important for our system as we submit this application. So from that, I think what we'll be doing, I think, from the city side and from the lead agency side, is reaching out to the groups and just having some conversations, like how are things going within, let's say, your permanent supportive housing programs and also your shelter programs. So I think on the shelter side, that's a key component in our homeless response system. So making sure that the shelters are are at the right capacity, and that they have the capacity to do the work that they need to do. Looking at length of stay, like that's one big thing we're looking at now. Like, how long are they staying within the shelters? How long, is that those numbers are going up? Why are those numbers going up? Are people wanting to go into shelter? I saw Claire put a question in as far as this PIT survey. Are folks wanting to go into shelter based on availability? And what's the availability during any given time? So I think it's really for us to just keep keep a close eye on what our system capacity is, because I think as we move forward on any type of project, we need to figure out, like, all right, what's missing here? Why is this project or shelter under capacity? And let's have some of those conversations. So just really want to say that we'll be reaching out to groups in the next couple of weeks to just have some conversations around what this how things are going within your own projects. I know I'm just blabbering. It's a lot of stuff, but just understand that we just want to reach out to all the groups. And when it comes to funding, right, we fund a lot of the shelters. Claire with CDBG and ESG, we want to make sure you all are doing okay, and how can we support you guys? I don't know if anyone else have any other thoughts on that, but just FYI, be connecting. That's all I had, Wendy.
All right, easy peasy. Home ARP is up next.
Yes, okay. Boy, I feel like I'm talking a lot today.
You are.
I should let Tim talk. No, I'm sorry. One more thing on the previous item, and this relates to our next item, is another piece of the conversation that we want to have with groups is that part of this home ARP planning, many of you know that we put a significant amount of money in the budget line item for non-congregate shelter, almost a third of the budget, with this idea that we would have this beautiful building that will accommodate numerous congregate spaces and have the services and maybe have a kind of a day center there. So, and just having more and more conversations about this, we thought maybe what if we take that idea and maybe build upon what we already have? So that was a conversation we had. I think this is a conversation we'll be reaching out to a lot of groups on this call, and groups that are outside of these calls that are part of the homeless response system. But just wanted to throw it out there. I think, we had our first home ARP kind of task force meeting last week, actually this week, yesterday. Was it yesterday? And we have Tim, Steve Bauer, and Wendy, myself, and Mario talking about, like, what are some of the projects we can look at as far as what our system needs are and how do we move those forward. We have some ideas, but that was one of them, and I don't know if Steve, Tim, or Wendy want to expound on that, but I think it's something that we can potentially look at and take advantage of, and maybe not having to create this new mega space that we needed in our system, but look at what our current capacities are, maybe build upon those.
Tim, you should go. You're better at summarizing things in order than I am.
He is.
Okay, but no pressure. No, I mean, I think that is a pretty good summary of sort of our initial conversation at our task force meeting yesterday, really looking at current capacity of congregate shelter, which is really what dominates our homeless response system currently. And then looking to those providers to see if they have thoughts or ideas about, are they interested, and with resources, could they be better positioned to add non-congregate options to their current emergency housing work. The challenge being we don't want to lose current shelter capacity, but maybe there's an opportunity to reconfigure or add to what folks are doing. Because I think the initial idea of buying a building and then, renovating it and making it this non-congregate space year round is a pretty tall order. And while a third of the home ARP dollars essentially have been devoted to non-congregate shelter, that's still not a lot of money to work with. And then there's always the question of, and what happens after in terms of sustainability. So we want to begin to have those conversations and just gauge interest and whether this is actually a path we should continue to try to pursue. So we've identified a core set of folks that we're going to start those conversations and then just continue and see what we find out.
Yep. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, the plan for this group, we'll be meeting at least every other week. Again, we submitted the actual home ARP plan last year and approved. If you don't have a copy of it, you should have a copy. I can get you one, but I think it's something we want to start moving on some projects, knowing that, technically we have until 2030 to spend these funds, but we want to get some of these dollars out the door fairly soon, knowing that there's a need.
And just as a reminder to this group, it's about 20.5 million that has been awarded. About 500,000, give or take, has already been awarded for various emergency projects. But that leaves the vast majority of those funds yet to be allocated and utilized. And we want to make sure we're not leaving anything on the table with the time that is available for us. The non-congregate shelter is $6 million some dollars of that total, but there are other categories, including supportive services and TBRA. We're going to be tackling those categories as well in terms of, unmet need and, adding capacity within the current system as we move along.
Thanks,
Anyone?
Claire.
Questions or thoughts or concerns or? Does anyone have
Just-
anything else? Oh,
Just
go
a
ahead,
quick, Claire put in the chat a link to the plan that was done in March of 2023. So if you haven't seen it, use that link to grab a hold of it.
All right. Does anyone have anything else they want to talk about? Dreams they want to share?
If I could
So-
just give a very brief YHDP update.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, so as we've mentioned in previous meetings, the comprehensive community plan is a required element in order to eventually release the YHDP funds. So I think since the last time this body met, we have been able to not only submit the additional information and the required signatures for that CCP by deadline, but received pretty quick, at least to me, I was a bit surprised how quickly our HUD liaison said it's been accepted and approved. So that's a big getting something off of our checklist of things to do. So so that was a major win in that regard. Also, the initial ideas for funding have gone in to HUD, and we're still waiting to hear sort of their response to those initial project ideas and budget that are associated with the priority projects, which again is a joint component of transitional and rapid rehousing, and then a youth coordinated entry element as well. Obviously with supported services to those housing components.
And also
So that's-
also a landlord engagement person as well. So
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Yep.
All right, Claire?
Hi. Hi, everyone. Just a reminder that the 2025 RFP notice for CDBG, ESG Home, and HOPWA funds is posted on the CDGA website. We released it on August 2nd. Hopefully you're all aware that the applications are being submitted through Neighborly. We facilitated a training, which I know most agencies attended, but the slideshow for that training is on the website as well. And then any questions about that opportunity should go to CDGA reports at milwaukee.gov. Thanks.
And then just on that note, Wendy, if I can just mention and just remind folks that we're already in August, and if you haven't submitted any of your cost reports for this year, please do so. I know the year is going to go by quick, so please get those in as soon as you can, or if you are behind or whatever, please just want to get those rolling.
And budget amendments are also coming due? Correct?
Yes. Yep. By the end of September.
Just real quick from Guest House to the Best House. Two quick things. One, I'm going to be sharing with you all an announcement that you may have received yesterday, but just to make sure you all got it, we have hired a new vice president for fund development, Christy Miller, formerly of Pearls for Teen Girls, fame. So super excited for her to start on Monday, and then a vice president for clinic operations to help put a shot in our mental health and behavioral health clinic, Kenyatta Matthews, who will start with us on the 26th or 22nd or 26th, whatever that Monday is. So super excited to have some more folks online, and we will be engaging with various people on this call to get those folks introduced and get them all integrated into the world. So super excited about that. Also, for whatever reason, I have received a massive amount of emails of people trying to donate large amounts of things, including furniture, bed frames. There was a note from the RNC trying to get rid of all their furniture. I've got a lot of stuff. I'm going to be emailing you all out a email with some of that stuff in it to try to figure out. I would like a lot of it. I just don't have the storage space. So very much open to joint storage solutions if folks are interested, or just have warehouses sitting around that they're not using. Would greatly appreciate any sort of and open to any sort of partnership around it and that sort of thing. So more to come in an email from me later today.
All right. Oh,
I just have to say thanks, Steve. I golfed in his golf outing for Guest House. Guest House,
yes.
The Best House. Is that the new
Guest
name?
House-
Is that
Guest House is the best house, and we're
Yeah,
down to
okay.
party. We had a great. Last year, our golf outing got completely rained out in a monsoon-style weather. So we didn't get any rain, but it was about 4,000 degrees outside with 100% humidity, so it was a little warm, but it went really well. Thank you for all that support. Andy was there, and her CFO, and Carl's. Thank you.
Emily.
That was a good day of work. I like those days of work.
That's awesome. Emily, you want to mention the social?
yes. So to kick off our having full bodies again as a community, I'm going to send out an email with the schedule for the next fiscal year and then some of the trainings as well. We're going to have a social at on the 21st, right? Or the 20th. Sorry. I knew I was
Whichever one's a Tuesday.
on the 20th. And it's going to be at Hold on, I just had it. What was it called, Greg? Sorry, I was not prepared.
City Lights.
City Lights.
City Lights Brewing.
Yes, because they have
Um,
lots of parking and food and stuff.
Yeah, so we plan to do that. Hope to see you all there. Expect an email this afternoon with more details about upcoming full body activities, but we're gonna start there.
Mm-hmm.
Emily, what time did you say that was?
Well, unfortunately, they don't open until 4, so we do have to wait until 4.
So 4:05.
Yeah, 3:59, be in the parking lot. But I'm really excited about the work that we've done with the full body planning committee. It's been going really well. We have a couple of really good trainings that we're scheduling, and we're also working on creating a few panel discussions. So all of the full body meetings will feature a panel discussion on the back end from here on out. So that should be, I hope that that's useful and helpful to people. We received a lot of desire for that in the survey that we sent out around full body.
No, Tim.
All right. We're not the Nope House. Come on.
I'm just saying. I'm trying to find a word that rhymes. Broke is entirely inappropriate, so you know.
All right. On that note.
Let the minutes reflect.
I will make sure to edit this part out for the YouTube when we upload it on our YouTube.
Sorry.
Have a good rest of your month, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks,
care,
guys.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.